We're going to be talking about the 2026 NFL Draft on today's edition of Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman. Appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. So, coming up on today's show, ESPN was writing up a recent article giving every single team's dream draft fit. So, we'll discuss who they had for the Vikings at pick 18. Then, I want to give you guys my top 5 dream draft targets at that selection for your Minnesota Vikings on the back half of today's show. But there's no doubt this draft for the Minnesota Vikings is a massive one. You had a lot of bad contracts this past year in free agency, and you need to nail this 2026 NFL draft. So if you guys want the Vikings to do just that, go down there, hit that thumbs up icon for us, and like today's show. So it was Matt Miller of ESPN who was writing up this article for ESPN, giving a dream draft target for every single NFL team. And for the Minnesota Vikings, he had an obvious selection. He had the Vikes going with Emmanuel McNeil Warren. It seems like the Vikings will be drafting one of those two safeties in the first round. This is what he had to say about McNeil Warren joining Brian Flores' scheme. Saying McNeil Warren is an ideal coordinator for Brian Flores' scheme, which focuses on creating chaos for opposing offenses with late movement and pressure. Flores and the Vikings played too high coverage, 56.5% of opponent dropbacks last season, the second most in the league. McNeil Warren has the explosive forward ability to drive on the ball from the deep half or a quarters alignment and has the range to track it deep. Flores will also use his third-level defenders on pressure concepts. Minnesota's defensive back blitz rate of 15.1%, ranked fourth highest last season. That lends well to McNeil Warren's forward burst. And personally for the Vikings here, I really don't think they can completely screw up this pick at number 18 if it is McNeil Warren or Dillon Thieneman. Just for me personally, as we start going through this draft process, you start to look at more tape on each of these guys. I am starting to lean McNeil Warren over Thieneman if the Vikings are set on drafting a safety in round one. Now, I think the Vikings have also set themselves up where they should just go BPA in the first round. But if you are set on drafting a safety, I'd rather have McNeil Warren personally right now than Dillon Thieneman. And McNeil Warren, this guy's a hell of a player. And I think when you're talking about guys that played their college football not in a Power 5 conference where they're playing, at Toledo, when you turn on the tape, you want to be able to mark out the number one NFL guy. And when you're watching Toledo, McNeil Warren does that. Now, he's had great production over the last 3 seasons for Toledo, and he's got some great versatility that I like. And Matt Miller kind of alluded to his closing gap ability or closing speed. It's fantastic. That's the number one thing. When you go watch this guy on tape and you see his closing speed, he'll be in a deep half, and if a tight end's running a hitch route at 7-8 yards, he'll come down, he'll be able to knock the ball out, and I would love to see that ability as a blitzing safety. He really, I think he reminds me more of Harrison Smith than Dillon Thieneman because McNeil Warren, big size, Harry, McNeil Warren's 6'3", 6'4". Harry was 6'2", 6'3", but similar physical profiles, and he could be a great box safety. And, like I said, he is a little Harrison Smith-esque. The way his versatility plays on the NFL field, I think it'd be very similar. And he's also great against the run. He is great at the shoestring tackles, which translates to the next level. So I'm very, very high on McNeil Warren. If it's between him and Dillon Thieneman, I don't think you can go wrong. Personally, I would be leaning McNeil Warren with this selection. But again, if the Vikes do draft Thieneman on draft night and McNeil Warren's on the board, not going to kill him whatsoever. But you guys let me know down below. Pick a safety. Are you going with Thieneman or are you going with McNeil Warren? All right, let's talk about my top 5 draft targets for the Vikings. At pick number 18, did not include Emmanuel McNeil Warren on this list, or he would have been, close to the top here. But my number one dream draft selection is a safety out of Ohio State. That guy's name is Caleb Downs. I've been pounding the table for this entire offseason process. He is the number one safety in this year's class, and he's the number one player in this year's class. And there is a chance that he falls outside the top 10. DraftKings, his over-under of where he will be selected is 9.5. So there is a very good possibility that we could be watching this draft, and we're at pick 10, we're at pick 11, and Caleb Downs is still on the board. If he falls past 10, I think the Vikings should get ultra aggressive here and trade up. Now, I think with where the Vikings are at, obviously they need to nail this draft. So having a lot of draft capital this year, just keep on throwing pins, or keep on throwing darts at the dartboard, that will, help them eventually land 3 to 4 starters. But if you need to package pick 97, pick 92, and move up from 18, potentially 11 or 12, I would really consider it because if you get Caleb Downs with Brian Flores, he'll end up working out. He'll literally just be a Kyle Hamilton clone. So number one for me, got to go with Caleb Downs. And number 2, We're going to go with the DB here, Jermod McCoy. Massive fan of Jermod's game. And also, he impressed the hell out of me in his 2024 season. And the thing I also love about McCoy the most is back in high school, it's not like he was a highly touted recruit. Like, he wasn't like a guy where he was like, oh, the number one corner on his in his state. Like, he wasn't, the best player in his state. Like, he was a 3-star recruit, and actually he was the number 126 corner in the 2023 class. So why do I love that? Because it's shown he's developed over the last couple of years. And he was first team All SEC as a true junior. And this past season, he did miss his entire year because he tore his ACL last January, but that's no problem. Adam Schefter tweeting out his combine results at Tennessee's Pro Day, and he ran a 4.3840, a 38-inch vertical leap, and a 10'7" broad jump. So clearly the athletic ability still there with Jermod McCoy. Massive fan of his game. Like, I think he could be a true shutdown guy at the next level. But number 3 for me, I'm going to go Dillon Thieneman here. Now, let's just say Caleb Downs off the board, Jermod McCoy off the board, and let's just say McNeil Warren's off the board. I would lean the direction of Dillon Thieneman if I'm the Minnesota Vikings. So this guy, he is a freak athlete, man. What he did at the combine was ridiculous. He ran a 4.3540, had a 41-inch vertical leap. And the thing about Thieneman that I think really pops off the board is this guy is just a unbelievable grinder. Like, you go talk about what he did at Purdue, what his teammates and coaches says. Like, he's the hardest working guy there. Oregon, hardest working guy there. Like, obviously, you would love that out of all your prospects, and they probably would say that about most guys at the college football level. But Thieneman, like, he is ridiculous, man. And I like his versatility. Doesn't have the same range, I think, as Emmanuel McNeil Warren, because he is only 6 foot, 201 pounds. Like, you get more length, you get more size from McNeil Warren. But Thieneman, I think he would be a dog, and I think Flores would have a plan for him. But number 4 for me, I'm going to go with the wide receiver here, and we're going to go with Jordyn Tyson. Now, I am guessing Carnell Tate and Mekhi Lemon, like, they are no doubt going to be drafted in the top 16 of this year's draft. I think with the Jets at 16, if Lemon or Tate are on the board, they'll probably go that direction. Now, I think Tyson's a guy that could potentially fall in this year's draft because the injury history, a lot of soft tissue injuries. Now, hasn't missed a ton of games over the last 2 seasons, but he's been dealing with that hammy. He's been banged up a lot, but this guy, I mean, his versatility, can play slot, can play outside. Really reminds me of like a Stephon Diggs, Justin Jefferson, honestly, all 3 Vikings wide receivers we've had. Jordan Addison, like, it's elite route runners, great hands. And I think this will just be a BPA pick for the Vikings. So I think wide receiver, unlikely for the Vikes at 18, but if a guy like Tyson's on the board, watch out for him being the pick. Now, number 5 here, I'm going to go with Kayden McDonald, and I'm going to call this the unsexy pick for the Minnesota Vikings. I think if this is the selection at 18, a lot of people would be upset. They'd be saying, why the hell are we taking a nose tackle, top 20 of the draft, who really doesn't offer too much pass rush ability? And that is the downside of Kayden. Like, if you do draft him in the top 20, like, he better be Jordan Davis. He better be one of the best interior run-stuffing defensive tackles in the league. And this wouldn't be a sexy pick. I think a lot of Vikings fans would honestly be upset about this selection. But you need more talent in your defensive line. You got a blue chip or a perennial all-pro in Jalen Redmond. But if you would get a guy like McDonald next to him with what you got at the edge rusher group, like, the D-line would be absolutely disgusting for Minnesota next season. But you guys play GM for me. Would you draft Kayden McDonald at pick number 18? Give me a D for draft. Give me a P for pass. You guys chime in down below. And also hit that subscribe button on your way out. We keep you guys posted with everything around your Minnesota Vikings. And we'll catch you guys next time. As always, Skol Vikes.